Welcome to my first game review for the Elder Scrolls Online Dragonhold. Now I apologize up front that the quality of the camera isn't the best. I'm only using a 1080p webcam, and the audio I'm just using a Xbox microphone in the meantime. I do aim to upgrade both of these things, but I've been talking about this review for a while and I kind of want to get it pushed out. Tired of really delaying it. So that all being said, if you have any criticisms, things you think I can do better, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, and go ahead and enjoy the review. Elder Scrolls Online has been my go-to MMO for about 2 to 3 years. I'm a big fan of the way the combat works, the way they lay out their stories are usually pretty good, if you're not one of those people who just click through everything. Prior to this, I was playing Guild Wars 2, as you can see the statue up here above my head. I was a big fan of that. But then when they introduced the first Heart of Thorns expansion, I just didn't like how they changed up the combat with the break bar conditions that I felt were overpowered. And for me, playing a warrior, it didn't feel right. Since then, I still log in, as you guys can see on my channel, for like when the DLCs come out, but I'm not really consistent with it. That all being said, Elder Scrolls Online, when they introduced the Elsewhere expansion, I think it was early this year, I had a lot of fun with it. I love that we've finally gotten to see Elsewhere in the Khajiit homeland, different races of Khajiit, not just the standard one that we're used to seeing in these games. So yeah, it was really excited. I really enjoyed it a lot. Then they introduced the first DLC, the 2 dungeons. I don't remember what it's called. I really wasn't a big fan. Dungeons are fun and all, but I don't really get into them that much. And then this new one, the Dragonhold. I played through it. Spent, I think it was somewhere around 10 to 12 hours to get to the story and kind of exploration of the map. I thought it was a pretty good sized DLC. I really enjoyed the story. Once again, I love seeing the Khajiit homeland, the whole, different Khajiit that they have that we've never seen in any of the Elder Scrolls, kind of story or lore before. At least been there and seen it. We've heard about it, but we've never seen it. So that being said, there's still, as much as I love it, there are a lot of things I will, kind of pick apart with this. First off is just performance. They claimed that there would be some performance increase. Now, I don't know if it was just me, but I didn't see any. If anything, it was far worse than before. Constant loads, this has always been an issue for me. I don't know if it's just because I'm on the West Coast, away from their servers. I believe their servers are somewhere on the East Coast. But load times are horrible. I can sit there sometimes for up to a minute or two just loading a dungeon when I try to load in. No, I don't have a slow computer. I'm using an AMD 3700X with an NVIDIA 1080 Ti with DDR4 3600 MHz RAM with the 960 EVO NVMe SSD. My load time should not be bad. On top of that, performance goes. I run a 1440p ultra-wide monitor. I run max settings, everything on there. With this kind of hardware, there's no reason why my frame should be dropping down to the 20s or 30s, which it consistently will do. This is really bad, of course, in the cities. That's always going to be an issue, it seems like, in MMOs. But in other places, too, it would do it. And this is something that I'm hoping, ZeniMax will fix with their upcoming, I think they said next year, they're going to have the final performance patch. We'll see. I hope it comes true. I don't want to go on about the performance too much, but I did catch a couple clips, and I did include MSI Afterburner so you can see the GPU and the CPU utilization. So you can see this isn't a hardware problem. This is solely on ZOS for not optimizing the game. It's pretty bad in some points, and at one point I even glitched out completely where everything around me disappeared, and the only thing I could see was the floor.
You are the Hallowed, the one that walked the path with the maid.
The worst part about all this is I'm on good hardware. I'd hate to imagine people who are on lower end hardware that have to deal with something like this. I have a laptop that has a Intel i7 88 or 8550U CPU and a GTX 1050 in it, so it's not like it's a a gaming laptop really. It can do a little bit of low end gaming, but I put the game on medium settings at 1080p, and it struggles quite a bit. So I'd hate to see people who have something like this or even worse, who want to do like a raid or something like that and experience any kind of graphics that don't look like a potato. Assuming I haven't scared you away by now, there's a lot of good things about the game. I'll always talk about how great the combat is in Elder Scrolls Online. In most MMOs I've played in the past, besides Guild Wars 2, combat is kind of like, I won't say turn-based, but it is, some are turn-based, but it's slow, it feels clunky, it feels stiff. If you start an attack, you are stuck in that animation until you are finished, which leaves you really vulnerable to enemies that will maybe do a quicker attack than what you're doing. Elder Scrolls Online completely changes that. I think Guild Wars 2 kind of was the ones that reinvented the combat, but Elder Scrolls seems to have perfected it in my opinion. The gameplay just feels fluid. There's none of that clunkiness. You start an attack and you want to stop it, you simply can. You can dodge, you can move, you can do whatever, and get out of the way so you don't get yourself killed. This plays in a lot with dungeons, raids, especially in the Elder Scrolls. When they introduced Elsewhere, they introduced the Dragon Overland bosses, which are pretty much raid bosses, but you got 40-30 people attacking it, so it makes it a little bit easier. But there are things that if you don't dodge, if you don't move, you will die. One of those examples is the dragon will swing its wing and it will knock everybody back. My favorite is when it'll do a shout and it will just blast you backwards, and unless you're a tank or unless you're blocking, you're dead. The dragon overworld bosses that pop up in this game are on a time schedule, and they pop up every few minutes. But the first time you hear a dragon roar and you see it fly over your head is absolutely amazing. One thing I've always enjoyed about the Elder Scrolls Online is the graphics, the quality of the sound they use, and the music that goes with it. This is no exception with the new Dragonhold DLC. Everything just sounds perfect, the music is perfect for the environment, and the graphics are great even for a 5 to 6 year old game. It's aged pretty well, I would say, especially for an MMO.
I can hardly believe it. Zaji, Prince of the Vagabonds, taking down a dragon.
He's actually quite brave once you get to know him.
Oh? And just how well did you know?
As much as the graphics, sound, and music all make you feel like you're right there in the game and it makes it feel real immersive, what really does it for me though is walking through a city and seeing NPCs interact like you're in a real world. It's not just, NPCs doing nothing. There's one section of the city where you walk through and there's a soup kitchen with a line and people being handed out food. Another part you run through and you'll see Khajiit sitting there playing dice. Another part I just saw, two soldiers having a conversation, and in each step of the quest, the conversation would change. So it made it feel quite unique, as it just wasn't an empty city. It felt like it was a living, breathing city. And that's what I really think makes this game enjoyable.
So much to do, so little time.
Something I've always enjoyed about the Elder Scrolls Online is the characters. They always have fantastic voice acting. Unfortunately, sometimes they are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they make, characters that you just won't remember who they are 5 minutes after you finish the quest. Fortunately for this DLC, they've done a really good job in developing the characters. I had several times where I laughed pretty hard at just the dialogue between several of the characters. You'll see some recurring ones like Sai Sahan. There are a few others I won't give away because they happen later in the quest. You see Sai right away, so it's not really a spoiler.
You must sneak in, Casca. Sneak. You do remember how to do that, yes?
I remember the last time you tried to sneak somewhere. Did you ever remove all those cactus spines from your arse?
Those cactus spines never stung as much as your betrayal, Casca.
Oh yes, my third betrayal of the day, but who's counting?
You look tasty, and it's time for my next snack. I kid, of course. It's not nice to hunt prey in the city. Are you planning to rob it? Oh, do say yes. I'm a little bored. I could bring you down before you took 7 steps. Maybe 8. No, of course not. Sometimes I encourage them to sneak into the palace to steal General Renmors's gold, just to liven things up around here, you understand?
I'm not going to give the standard 1 to 10 game rating for this. How I think I want to do it is just kind of give you a recommendation if you should or shouldn't buy the game. In this case, I would definitely say you should, especially if you're a current Elder Scrolls Online player and you haven't gotten this yet. What are you waiting for? Get it. If you're not, or you're new, or you're just kind of lapsed and you're coming back, I would say, first off, finish off what you have not done first. Wait for this to go on sale before you buy it. That way you definitely get your money's worth out of it. Also, if you have not finished the Elsewhere expansion, do that first. There are a few quests in Dragonhold that you cannot do unless you finish the Elsewhere main storyline first. So that all being said, I really would recommend this. Great story, great characters, graphics, sound, music, everything they just did a really good job on. I wouldn't say it's quite as good as the Dark Brotherhood, which is my favorite DLC so far for this game, but it's definitely up there and I would highly recommend this. Well, that's going to wrap up my review for Elder Scrolls Online Dragonhold. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, all that stuff. I do plan on doing another review here in a few months. I'm probably going to do Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I'm going to go for games that are maybe a few years old and just didn't get a lot of coverage. I don't think that game really did, and I really enjoyed the previous one, so I want to give it a shot finally. I've had the game forever and I've never gotten around to it. So once again, thanks for watching. Please feel free to throw any criticisms at me you think I could do to improve in the future, and also leave any kind of recommendations for games that you'd like me to review in the future also.